What is up, everybody? It's your boy Adam. It's another Friday walk and talk here at the park down at the end of my street. And today's topic is all about the title of this episode, which is My Way or the Highway. Reminds me of a really bad Limp Bizkit song, My Way or the Highway. And that's probably not the first song I'll sing for you guys today. But that was what came to mind as I was walking through the park today about what might be good to talk about. And really what it boils down to is compromise. And you might think to yourself, well, isn't it always a good idea to be able to compromise? And the answer to that is no. But generally speaking, yes. But I do have examples from this week of both. This is why the topic came to mind today, and it might kind of be a little bit surprising of what I come up with as examples. But the first example is something I've been dealing with for a long time, and that is dealing with clients. As a graphic designer, creative professional, web designer, web developer, video, motion graphics, logo designer, whatever. If you do creative work for a living, you're a writer. You write for other people besides yourself. You write for a newspaper, you write for a magazine. You are going to have to deal with a lot of people wanting to make changes to your work that you may not agree with. This profession is, how do I put it? People hire you for their expertise, or as some of us like to say, they like to hire the expert so they can turn around and ignore the expert. And it happens a lot with these creative kind of jobs, more so than it does with a job like a plumber, a mechanic, electrician, a lawyer. People, you're always going to have bad customers, and I'm not saying I have bad customers, but if you work in an auto garage, you're always going to have a customer. If you're a good mechanic and an honest mechanic, and you're telling a customer that their timing belt's bad, and it's going to be whatever it is, $2,000 or whatever to replace it. And they're like, look, I just wanted to get my blinker fluid changed. I know that's what's wrong with my car. And you try and explain to them, well, sir, there's no such thing as blinker fluid. Shut up. I brought my car in. I want you to change the blinker fluid. And finally, sometimes you just have to throw in the towel and be like, just come and get your car, dude. But generally speaking, people don't argue and want to look over the mechanic's shoulder the whole time they're doing the job. Customer drops off car, wants it fixed, mechanic gives them price, customer either says, no, I can't afford it right now, or, okay, go ahead. Car gets fixed, customer picks up car, the end. And if it was a good price and the mechanic does a good job, then you'll establish a relationship from there. Possibly word of mouth referrals in business, and everybody lives happily ever after. But when it comes to designing anything for a client, what's the one thing? If you're a graphic designer, if you're a graphic artist for a living, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm about to say. What's the one thing the customer always wants you to do? I'll give it one hint. It's something to do with the logo. What do they want to do to the logo? What do they want to do to the logo? They want to make the logo bigger. In fact, there's a funny rock song that some band put together called "Make the Logo Bigger," and it's just a bunch of lyrics like, that logo isn't big enough, so can you make the logo bigger? Bigger, 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 bigger. Can you make the logo bigger? And it's the whole song about making the logo bigger. And it's so ridiculous that there are times when I know from day one, oh yeah, that's going to be a make the logo bigger client. So make the logo small when you're doing a prototype, when you do your first round of design, make the logo small on purpose so that when the client says, hey, I need you to make that logo bigger. Okay, sure. And then you make the logo the size it should be. And that way you can say you made the logo bigger, but you didn't. You could make the whole thing the logo. You could make the logo take up the whole screen to the point where you can't see anything else. And they're like, you know, it looks like you got a little bit of extra room on that screen. You think you could make the logo bigger? It's like, dude, no. Why did you hire me if you're not going to listen to me? If a lawyer told you, if you told your lawyer, you know what, the next time I see that judge, I'm going to tell that judge to go fuck himself. And your lawyer looks at you and says, you know, as your legal advisor, it is my duty to advise you against that. That may not work out the best for you, and here are the legal consequences that you could face for doing so. Now, as your lawyer, I can't stop you from getting up in the middle of the courtroom and telling the judge to go fuck himself. But as your legal advisor, I'm going to strongly recommend that you don't do that. And how many clients are going to argue with the lawyer? No, you don't know what you're talking about. He's not going to hold me in contempt. You know what I mean? See how that works out for you then, dog. And so I was dealing with a situation this week with a client. It got under my skin a little bit. Love the guy, he's great. We have no beef. But he'll try to force me to do something that, as your graphic design advisor, I'm telling you that's not a good idea. It's about as good of an idea as telling the judge to go fuck himself in the courtroom. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not afraid to say it. And I'll explain why. So where does compromise come into play here? Well, number one, I'm not afraid to push back on a bad idea. But sometimes, at least in my profession, when a client gives me a stack of changes, and let's say I disagree with a lot of them, and I'll push back against it, but I won't actually outright say no. I'll just say, hey, I don't think this is... But let me sit on this. Let me go back to town. Let me go back to work. Let me be by myself for a while and contemplate this, and let me see, what's the actual goal that you're trying to accomplish here? When they say make the logo bigger, the actual intent might just be the logo needs to be prominent. There needs to be no doubt in the universe as to this is my company, and the actual intent of make the logo bigger you might be able to accomplish the intent by making the logo smaller when it comes down to it. But sometimes I'll poke and prod and try to get to the actual reason for a request when I disagree with it. See if there's a legitimate reason, or let's see if what you're actually trying to accomplish can be accomplished in a better way. And the second thing I'm going to do is, yeah, okay, fine. You want to make the logo bigger. You want to put this thing in there that doesn't make sense, that doesn't fit. All right, let me sit on it. And I don't mean sit on it, but let me go to my sandbox, my designer's sandbox, and play around with it. Let me see if I can come up with something that does what you want. But so that at the end of the day, as a graphic designer, as a marketing person, as a visual person, aesthetically pleasing, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, I do a round of revisions that you asked me for, and I sit back in my chair and go, you know what, that looks way better. I'm glad we did this. It may not be exactly what the client asked for. In fact, sometimes it's not at all what the client asked for. But it turns out better than what the client asked for. Another example of that was he wanted it to be, so he wanted the book to have a certain title. I'm working on a book design, a printed book. And he handed me a photograph. It was like an old Polaroid picture from back in the 1980s. And he had a title for the book. And I was just like, meh. I didn't lie. I'm like, nah. So I came up with a different title for the book, and I completely just threw that away and did a different cover. But it was actually a cover from another photo that he gave me. And when I showed it to him, he was pissed. He was like, you didn't do what I told you to do. And I said, no, but I made it better. And we got into, we butted heads about it. And then he sat on it for a couple of days. He's like, this is really awesome. I really like this now. It's really growing on me. A lot of other people have seen it. They like it. Validation, etc. And I had put that picture of his on the back cover with a description about the book. And it worked. And we've made changes to it since. We even changed the title again. He changed the title. And then I changed it to something else because I'm like, no, that's not good. How about this? And he got mad that I didn't listen to him again. And then it grew on him. And I'm like, you see what happens when you listen to the kid. You see what happens. But it took him a while. It took about 3 or 4 days of him getting mad. And then he sat on it and he goes, no, you know what? That's way better what you did. But it was a bit of a compromise because I was fine with it 2 covers and 2 titles ago. You know what I mean? But every time he asks me to change it and I disagree with the change, I'm like, all right, I will entertain this idea. But then in those 2 instances, a better idea came to mind. And I'm like, no, this is what I'm going to push on him. This is the idea I'm going to push through. And it even got to the point where we've made enough changes to that cover that we took the photograph off the back cover that he wanted so bad. And we have it on the inside back cover now next to the about the author. And every time we make these changes, the book gets better. And so, but now we're down to like some nitty gritty stuff and the book is done. The book has been done for weeks, but he keeps making small changes to it and he won't let me just send it to the printer yet. And so I'm trying to get that done. There might be a fear of completion thing going on psychologically, and I'm trying to help him with that. Like, perfect is the enemy of done. And I'll say this, like, I went through a section of the book today about 12 times, scanning through the text, looking for things to fix. I fixed at least a dozen things that I'd caught. It's one section of the book. The rest of the book has had 3 editors. It's been edited to death. I don't think there's a single space, comma, period, misspelled word, capital. Nothing is out of place. Like, that is solid. But there's another section at the beginning of the book that was kind of put in there after the fact. And so it's one of those things. Every time I look at it, I find something, ooh, that's not right. Nothing that would even be considered a problem or a misspelled word or nothing anybody would ever notice, in my opinion. But so every time he asks me to go in there and, mess with it, I'm also improving it and taking that opportunity. Well, I haven't sent it to the printer yet. Let's see if I can do another pass through on this text and see if I can find some outlier or some double space or just something weird that, I need to fix that. And like I said, I found a bunch of them today. Text formatting mostly. And which bothers me, but I think I've got it tightened down to where if I did 6 more run-throughs today, I wouldn't find anything to fix. But he asked me for something yesterday that just I'm like, that'll stick out like a sore thumb. I don't see the benefit in that. And I think it's getting to be like, I think that this part of the book is getting to be a little ridiculous. Like, it doesn't belong. What you're giving me, what you want me to do doesn't belong in the book. And he got mad and he was like, you know what? I'm just going to drop the subject because I can tell this is going nowhere. And he just got mad. And I'm like, dude, I'm just looking out for your best interest. I want this book to be I want you to look good. That's my job, is for you to look good. Let me do my job. And so, anyway, it's like you're painting a car and someone's standing over you, go, why are you putting 2 coats of paint on? Well, let me do my job. But anyway, we went back and forth, and we ended up being in a Zoom meeting for like an hour and a half about this. And it started out, we were pissed off at each other. But then I was like, well, why don't we try this? And I made a change that actually fixed something that I didn't like in the book layout. And it made him happy because it put, without getting into the details, it put 2 things together that belong together in a better way than they currently were. And for me, it cleaned up a visual problem that I had that I didn't like. And so it killed 2 birds with 1 stone. It was a compromise. It was something I really didn't want to do, but when I did it, I was like, all right, this is better. And then there was, I was like, I was able to put out the fire. The one thing he wanted to do that I'm like, no. I've got him to agree that no, I got him to agree to no on that. And then there was another change that we decided to make that I was like, I don't understand the benefit of this, but I'll just do it because I don't care. I just want to get it done. And at the end of the day, I'm like, it doesn't look any worse. We just changed something. And I'm like, but at the end of the day, I compromised with him. I don't take orders. I'm not one of those monkeys that dance around when you crank the music box and tap dance saying, yes, master, I'll do exactly what you say is master. Not like that. I'm not one of the... Shit, that came across a little bit racist, but that's not what I meant. I'm thinking about like the Bugs Bunny cartoon where there's a monkey and the crank, the box, and then I got it confused with, the big lip black guy from all old cartoons in the 50s, you know what I mean? Like, I put them together. But no, that's not some racist shit. I'm not a yes man. I don't just sit and take orders from people. And so anyway, I lost my train of thought now because of that. But anyway, I don't do that. I try to compromise. And like I said, I even told my client yesterday, I'm like, look, my goal when you make a change or you want to change something or add something or take something away or whatever you want to do, keeps wanting to add stuff to a book that's been done for a while, but, oh, what if we add this and what if we add that and what if we add, and I'm like, stop adding to it. But I've been able to do it in ways that don't compromise the integrity of the book, visually, design-wise, and even the content itself in a really bad way. So, and at the end of the day, I think the book is better today than it was a month ago, but it was done a month ago. So I'm chomping at the bit. I'm like, I want to call this one done. And I would have been comfortable calling it done a month ago. But, everything happens for a reason, and I'm not fighting it like tooth and nail. I'm trying to go with, what you can't. If you've ever been out on a river in a canoe, it's hard to paddle upstream sometimes. In fact, some rivers you can't. Some rivers you're going to have to get out of if you need to go upstream, you're going to get out of the river and carry your boat upstream. Some rivers go slow enough that you can find the eddies and the reverse currents along the shore and along different banks and stuff to get yourself upstream. But no, sometimes you just have to go where the river takes you. But like I said, I'm trying to compromise. I'm trying to come up with something that works for us. Another example. I worked for a corporation. I'm not going to name the name right now. It doesn't matter. A big company. And right before the FBI came to my house, that was my job. And like I said, I'm not a yes man. I don't just do what I'm told. And I don't care. Like, nobody can intimidate me in that respect. Like, there's just nobody out there who can boss me around. My parents couldn't do it. School teachers, authority figures in school couldn't do it. I mean, I generally just kept my head down when I was in prison, mainly because I just wanted to go home. And I figured the fastest way to get home was to just... It wasn't like I could go into the courtroom and tell the judge to go fuck himself, like I was saying. I'd still be sitting in prison if I did that. I've been out of prison now for, oh God, we're almost to the 2-year mark. Next week, next Thursday, I think it is. Next Thursday or Friday will be 2 years for me. The next time we're doing this park video, it'll be a 2-year anniversary video. So, compromise. I'm working at this company, and they hired me because of who I am and how I am, that I'm not a yes man. And the reason why I know that for sure, without a doubt, and why I can say that, I gotta get a little more comfortable here. All right, that's better for now. During the job interview process for this job, it was like 4 interviews. It was grueling. It was it was a high-paying job, but it was a gauntlet of interviews with higher and higher and higher people in the company. And there was one interview where I got swarmed on by a bunch of people, and they started like pressuring me, and they were kind of like shitting on my parade a little bit. And so I was like, And so I pushed back, and I copped an attitude back, but in like a professional way. I told them to go fuck themselves in the way that you would do that in a professional corporate meeting on a Zoom call. And you're not like actually mad at them and like saying, fuck you, I quit. You know what I mean? But you're not going to let them just walk all over you like that. If they're starting to like cop you an attitude, you're going to put that to bed. And so I did. And then they hired me. And on my very first day, the boss, my direct boss, said to me, he goes, the number one reason why we hired you for this job is because we know that you won't take any shit from anybody. And that was his exact words. He's like, you won't put up with anybody's shit, and you're not afraid. You seem like you don't give a fuck. And he's like, that's exactly what I need right now. He's like, you're going to be going into meetings where people worth hundreds of millions of dollars are going to be talking down to you or trying to force you to do things that are bad decisions. He's like, I can't fight all of these battles by myself. And he goes, I need somebody who's got my back, who's got the team's back. It's a team of 60 people, but specifically for me, it was 5 people who reported to me. He's like, I need somebody who will go to bat. We've got some junior level designers, and if they go to one of these meetings without you, they're going to get trampled on. They're going to get stomped all over, and they're going to come out of that meeting thinking they have to make a bunch of dumb changes to their design work that don't make any sense and are going to make it look ugly and be a bad user experience. And we need someone like you to come in there and put your foot down and say no. And just say, fuck you, we're not doing that. And like, in your professional way. And that was my job. I'm not kidding. I used to go, all I did was go to meetings and argue with people all day long. And if my junior developers, I had 2 of those on my team, and I had 2 very senior developers. The senior developers could hold their own, but I would go to meetings with them just to have their back. And so that there would be 2 or 3 of us in the meeting, unified. And if we're getting pushed on or stomped on, I'm going to stand up and be like, the fuck you are. You're not going to talk to us like that. You know what I mean? And then like that corporate cutthroat politics kind of a thing. And it really wasn't that bad of a company, politically speaking. Everybody was generally friendly. I've worked in much, much, much worse environments than this. So this was a cakewalk in terms of that, because there was never anybody that I had to get like hostile with, but you had to have a spine. You could not break. You could not let them break you, because once they break you once, they know they can. And so basically they were like, we give you full autonomy, full authority to stonewall, to be a stone wall, like the president's press secretary. I'm not going to answer that question. I'm sorry, but I have no comment at this time. I have no comment at this time. Sit down. Next. You know what I mean? Like stonewall. But in a different way. But we would still compromise. Either. And how would that work in that kind of environment? So sometimes we'd be in a situation where senior designer comes to me saying, this mother effer won't listen to me. They want to do this stupid thing that's going to be like 20 retarded ass steps for a client to figure out. A client's going to be mad that they have to jump through all these hoops, and it should be this, that, and it should be like 2 clicks of the mouse and simple. But they're pushing back saying we can't do that, and it's going to be this, and they're coming back with like programmer reasons, excuses, because that's too hard, and things like that. And I'd be like, all right, let's see what we can do. And so I'd go back into that meeting with my designer and push back and say, well, you do realize how stupid this is, right? And like, what if you were the customer being told you got to jump through these 6 hoops and open up this browser window and do that and go close that browser window and come back to the thing and do this, and then like this confusing mess? Would you be irritated about that if you were the customer? And most of the time they'd say, well, yeah. And the reasons for not making it right would be more or less excuses of like, well, we can't do that in the time that we have, and blah, 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 and this and that. And so I would be like, well, then take another week or 2 to do it right. Because if you're just going to build bad code on top of bad code, or if you're going to build shit on top of shit on top of shit on top of shit until you have a whole tower made out of shit, it's going to collapse, and it's just going to be a pile of stinking shit everywhere. So I would have to go into these meetings and try to prevent that, but you can't win them all. And so my boss would tell me, he's like, I don't want to be involved. Do it, do whatever you got to do, Adam, but when you get to a point where the C whatever O, who is 2 rungs down from the CEO's office, decides that he's more important than you or whatever, then bring it to me. I was 6 down from the CEO at a company of, I think there were 10,000 employees at the time. On the org chart, there were 5 people above me, including the CEO, going upward from me on the ladder. So my boss, I had 5 people under me. My boss had like 20 under him. My boss's boss had like 60 under her. My boss's boss's boss, who now that's like vice president something or other, he had probably 2 departments, 3 departments under him. That might be, it could be 1,000 people under him. I don't know. And then his boss would be like chief marketing, chief something officer. And then above that's the CEO. So, and I had access, direct line to contact my boss, my boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss. I had to interview with all of those people. So I interacted with them, not so much the boss's boss's boss, but I did interact with him from time to time and could reach out to him with anything. But I would only go up as high as I need to for whatever reason, and I'm not going to go all the way to him without going through the other 2, because I was, I liked them. I wasn't trying to circumvent everything. I needed everybody to be on the same page. And so there were times where I couldn't do it, but I'd be like, hey, we got to bark this up the hill. and we could get it to go all the way up very quickly, so that somebody with like C something O in their job title, living in a giant mansion worth hundreds of millions of dollars, could be like, nope, we're going to listen. Adam gets his way today. Or Adam's team, the whole team, because we're all unified. Like, none of us are really like, as a team, we all wanted the same thing. There were 60 of us in lockstep with each other. But there were times where we'd have to compromise, and we would say, okay, we're going to do the shitty one now because you can do it next week. But I'm not going to release this. I'm not going to give you what you need to get it done until we slot time in to do it the right way. And we're going to put it on the calendar that it's going to be done. It's going to be this crappy ass version, just get it done for now version. And then 3 months from now, we are going to have it the right way, and we are going to schedule it, and it is going to go into production like that, and we are going to go to the top and make sure that it gets done, and we're going to have the right people barking at you to make sure you do it. And we're not going to just do this crappy thing and let it sit there forever. And so that would be the compromise. Crappy for now to get it done. You know, it's like, I'm on a mountain bike ride. I'm out in the middle of the forest. Something breaks on my mountain bike, and I need a new part to fix it. Well, I'm 20 miles from the road. What do? I'm in the wilderness. You know how long it's going to take to walk 20 miles back to my car? That, you know, at an average speed of 2.5 miles an hour, because I'm dragging a bike along with me. You know, every 2 hours, that's 5 miles. 5, 10, 15, 20, 2, 4, that's 8 hours. It's 5 in the afternoon. What am I going to do? So duct tape. I got some duct tape. I've got this, that, and the other thing. I had a rip in the side of your tire. You get, something happens, there's a big slash in the side of my tire. What do? You need a new tire. Well, there's no bike shop 20 miles out in the forest. Do you want to walk 20 miles, or do you want to figure this out? I got duct tape. All right, we duct tape that motherfucker. We'll patch it up. Put low pressure in the grab another inner tube. You know, like low pressure, and make sure that it's, and then we make sure that we ride carefully to get out of here. We don't have to go. That's not the fucking National Off-Road Championships anymore. It's get back to the car time. We're just going to chill. We're going to get there. We're going to get back to the car in like 20 miles. Or we could do that in 2 hours. 2.5. Let's even say 3 hours would be fine. It beats 20. It beats 20 hours. It beats 8 hours, whatever. It's another thing. Oh, I've seen flat I've seen situations so bad on mountain bikes back in the woods. One time we had to shove a bunch of leaves into someone's tire. Like, we took the tire half off the rim and just started shoving leaves into it. It was in the fall, so there's dead leaves everywhere. And we packed that thing full of dead leaves all the way around the tire. Enough that the tire wouldn't be like smushed all the way down on the rim. But it's basically gonna, I mean, no matter how many leaves you shove in there, it's gonna feel like you're riding on a flat tire. But you can ride on a leaf-filled tire that's almost flat at a speed of about 5 to 8 miles an hour, and that's more than double what it would take, what you'd be able to walk 5-10 miles back to the car. It's what we got to do. I had a rear hub lock up so that I couldn't backpedal anymore without snapping the rear derailleur off. So I just treated it like a fixed gear bike. I rode it all the way home like that, knowing that you can't stop pedaling. And I every now and then I would screw up. But like, if you want to coast downhill, I'd have to come to a stop, click out of my pedals, and then just coast down the hill and let the pedals go like this. And just ride it like that. Like, there were certain goofy-ass things I had to do. But I'm looking at, like, a 4-hour walk to get home or a half-hour to limp back. There was a time I forgot my mountain bike shoes, but we were going on a family ride. Like, me and my little girl, my daughter, and a friend of mine. But we were going to go, like, 20 miles, and I'm like, I was so mad that I left my cycling shoes, because these, the mountain bike pedals are like that big around, and they're not meant to ride with sneakers. But I'm like, well, my daughter, she's like 8 years old, 10, 8, she would maybe have been 10 years old at the time, and I'm like, you know what? Who cares? She's not going to be able to keep up with me, even if I'm riding my bicycle with a pair of sneakers with these tiny little pedals. It's not like I'm trying to go 30 miles an hour today. So we're good. I just sucked it up. I did it. So you compromise, right? Instead of I got mad and I threw a little bit of a tantrum. I was like, "Mom, motherfucker, blah, blah, blah." And I wanted to go back to the campsite, get my shoes. But it would have been, we would have wasted so much of the day just to go back and get my shoes, just to go on a ride with the kid. I'm like, you know what? No, let's just have fun. Forget it. I'm done talking about it. I'll drop it. Let's just go do this. We're good. You might, once again, compromise. You might forget something when you're on a trip. You go camping, you forgot something. I'm usually pretty damn good at not forgetting things because I'm kind of anal. I make checklists for everything. When I go to the gym, I have a checklist for what goes in my gym bag down to the smallest detail. And people think it's kind of ridiculous. And I'm like, well, number one, it takes me 15 minutes to get my gym bag packed from nothing to fully packed. And I never forget anything. And I never get to the gym and I'm like, oh man, I forgot that. My headphones, I forgot my heart rate monitor or whatever it is. I don't forget those things. I forgot my water bottle. That sucks, like anything. And it's kind of, there is a lot. If you want to enjoy 4 hours at the gym, there are a bunch of things that I bring. Extra clothes. I bring everything I need to take a shower and shave now. And like, I do it all. Like, I come out of the gym like I just got ready to go to work, even though it's like 10 o'clock at night. But it's just a ritual kind of a thing. But I take a lot of stuff. My heart rate monitor stopped working last week. Compromise. I missed one of my 3 workouts. Well, 4, because I'll do the rowing machine, then spinning class, then weightlifting, then yoga class. I skipped the rowing machine because my heart rate monitor was jacking up and it wouldn't work. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I screwed around with it for like 20 minutes, which cut too much into the rowing machine time. And so I finally just said, fuck it. Put it away, compromise. Decided to use a different app to record my workout and upload it to Strava. I still got my data into my app because 1 is none, 2 is 1, so I still have my watch. But there'll be a day where this doesn't work and the heart rate strap around my chest does. One day I had my headphones, didn't work. I screwed around with them for about half an hour, gave up on it, was mad, but I keep an old pair of wired headphones in my gym bag for that purpose. Compromise instead of getting all pissed off. I can't listen to music today. Oh, that fucking sucks. Wired headphones, and the compromise was I had to keep my phone in my pocket or somewhere close by, which I hate, but it's like, okay, do you want to listen to music? You want to, like, I was in such a rage that I needed some Rage Against the Machine or some sort of angry metal music so that I could work out my frustrations on the weight bench or whatever I was going to do. And like, it's a lot better to do that with music than no music. So it's like, well, it's a compromise. But then there's times where you don't want to compromise. And I saw a great situation, a great example of that last night. Once again, I went to spinning class last night. And the instructor has a pretty decent pair of cycling shoes. And I don't know if she's an actual cyclist. From the look of her shoes, because I had to look at them closely, they don't look like they've ever been outside. And there's a lot of people who will go to spin class, who will teach spinning classes, who aren't cyclists outside of it, who don't really ride bicycles out in the world. I think she does a little bit, but I don't get the impression that it's her thing. But she teaches spinning class regularly, twice a week, at least, maybe more. And she kept having to get off the bike last night to fix her shoe, her cleat. She kept saying that her cleat on the bottom of her shoe was moving around on her. And no matter how much she tightened down the bolts that hold the cleat on the shoe, she'd get on the bike and then she'd unclip her shoe and she could tell that the cleat moved. And so after class, I went up, I'm like, let me see your shoe. And it wasn't just me either, but there was a couple of people looking at it. But I used to work in bike shops. I mean, I've had every situation with bike shoes you can imagine. I've had to ghetto fix mountain bike shoes. I've had to do some crazy shit with bike shoes. When I was poor, I mean, I'm poor now, but when I was a poor, broke, starving art student, I had to make a pair of shoes last years. And I used to mountain bike all the time, and that destroys shoes. So I had to do things to make them. I got to get 2 more weeks out of this shoe. And you find things that work. Well, anyway, on her bottom of her shoe, I said, take the cleat off. Because you're not going to see what's going on with the cleat on the shoe. So somebody finally takes the cleat off the shoe. I'm like, don't worry, the bolts, the where they screw into the shoe, there, that's all a plate. That's not going to get, nothing's going to fall off inside the shoe. Because that's what somebody didn't know what they were doing. So anyway, I'm looking at the bottom of the shoe, and there's a gouge, a semicircular gouge, where the teeth on the back side of the cleat, where they're supposed to dig into the shoe and prevent the cleat from sliding around. Well, these cleats have been sliding around, and they gouged a trough, if you will. So now that cleat is going to roll back and forth. And at this point, there's nothing you can do. Because for the cleat to be where it needs to be, there's no way that cleat can grip. There's these metal teeth on the back side of the cleat that dig into the plastic on the bottom of the shoe, and that's what locks it in place to keep it from moving. And I'm looking at the cleats, and I'm like, these aren't Shimano cleats. They're Shimano SPD cleats, and the bicycles in the spin class have toe clips on one side, so people that wear sneakers can use them. But on the back side of them, they have Shimano, what's called the SPD system. So you have the cleat on your shoe that locks into the pedal, and it's kind of like they came from ski bindings. Look was the first company to make what's called clipless pedals for bicycles, and Look was a ski binding company. And so they basically turned ski bindings into bicycle shoe cleat systems that work the same way as ski bindings. But then they had to come up with a different kind for mountain biking because mud gets in there, and it's a different, there's different problems that come up with mountain biking. And so Shimano came up with the SPD system, which is the same concept. It's a cleat, snaps into the pedal, but the design of it doesn't matter how much mud you get on that thing, they'll still work. You can have your whole bottom of your shoe caked up with mud, and that thing will just go click right into your pedal like it's nothing. In the worst case scenario, you might have to stomp your foot on the pedal to shake some mud loose, and then click, goes right in. And they're designed for that. But another thing that the SPD cleats are good at is on the bottom of your shoe, you can still walk around like a normal person, because in mountain biking, most mountain bike races, there's a point where you have to get off the bicycle and carry your bike. There's a hill that's too steep to climb. There's an obstacle that you can't bike over, or that would just be faster to get off the bike and climb over. And you need shoes that you can actually walk in. Road bike cycling shoes aren't like that. They're very, very awkward to walk in. And so this is the most common bicycle cleat system that they generally make. For like the average person who's going to get into that kind of stuff, that's the cleat that you want. If you're just a casual biker, but you ride enough that you want real bicycle shoes, that's what I would recommend every time, because they're like, it's what I wear. All my bike shoes are SPD because they're universal. It's easy to find, it's easy to find cleats and pedals. It's not some off-the-wall side brand system. That's a totally different system. On a long distance bike haul, if I had a problem with my shoes, cleats, or pedals, I can go to any bike shop and fix that without having to, they're going to have it in stock. And for like spin class, it's perfect. And for the gym, it's perfect because you can walk around in your cycling shoes. They're not, I guess you could bring your own pedals to a spin class and swap them on the bike. They might frown upon that, but if you want to show up with a pedal wrench and do it, they might not care. But, anyway, spin instructor has the shoes, but her cleats were no good. And I'm looking at the cleats and I'm like, they're not Shimano cleats. And she goes, yeah, I just got the Amazon brand, but I've had them for a couple of years and never had a problem with them. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, but I could tell right away they weren't Shimano because the teeth on the back side of the cleat where it jams up into the plastic of the shoe were real short, stubby. They didn't look very grippy at all. And I'm like, yeah, I could tell they weren't Shimano because they look like crap. Like these aren't good cleats. They're the China brand, China Shimano, China Mano, Chamano, whatever you want to call them. Chimano. Oh, Chamano. Shimano's a Japanese company. Chinese, Japanese, how do you even know? Well, in this case, there is a difference between the Chinese and the Japanese. And the Japanese is the one you want. You don't want to compromise on that. And so there are situations where you just don't want to compromise. Sometimes, like I said, you got to do a patch job to get home. But if you're trying to say, Shimano cleats are like $25 to $30 for a pair of cleats for your shoes, Shimano from China might be $10. So you're saving $20, $15 to $20, but you just ruined your shoes because those shoes aren't fixable now. They are, but you're going to have to do some ghetto shit to fix them. And the integrity that the shoes aren't that. The nice thing about the shoes is she bought them at REI. And REI has a 1-year return policy. So within a year, you can bring them back for any reason under the sun, and they're just going to take them back. So I told her, I said, go to REI, take the shoes back, but do not put Shimano cleats. Get Shimano cleats and put them on because they will never move. You will not have this problem. The Shimano cleats, where they bite into the shoe, the teeth are significant and they're deep and they're big and they're beefy and they're meaty. Like they're not, when you wrench those things down onto your shoe, if you were to strip out the Allen bolts that hold them in place, you will never get those cleats off the shoe without a drill. They will never move. They will not budge. You have to make sure that before you commit and lock them down, you generally want them to be exactly in the right spot. And you may tighten them up just enough to get on and off the bike and make sure that they're exactly where you want them to be. And then you turn them down tight, because those teeth on the back of the cleats dig into the plastic of the shoe and they lock the cleat in place permanently. It's supposed to be a permanent lock. But the Shimano brand, the China Mano, they didn't grip. And so the constant getting in and out of the pedals and twisting your feet to unlock them put enough pressure on those cleats to finally loosen them up. And then once they were loose, they just started digging themselves a trench. And so now it don't matter how tight you tighten those cleats on those shoes, it's not going to stay. And so I'm like, go get yourself a brand new pair of shoes from REI. And then go get some Shimano cleats. Put those on. You're golden. If you're only doing spin class and you're not actually mountain biking or anything, you'll have those shoes for 10, 15 years. Like, you will never wear those shoes out. Not with spin, not just if you're only going to the gym and doing spinning class. And they're not even high-end Shimano shoes. They're like, I'd say like in the $100 range, in my opinion. That they're definitely on the lower end, but they're good for what she's using them for. They're probably perfect. And if they're comfortable and they give you good power on the pedals, like if they work, they're great. But the thing is, they're not great if you to save $10, $15 by getting the China Mart brand of cleats, you ruined the $100 pair of shoes. So don't compromise there. There's some other things that, what's another way I might have to compromise? I need hard drives for my computer desperately. It's getting bad. I keep squeezing it. What I have, I've squeezed every megabyte that I have. But I remember on Black Friday last year for Amazon, all the hard drives went on sale for half off. And I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the money that day. So what I need, 2 14 terabyte hard drives, a pair, it would have been $360 for the pair. Now they're $360 a piece. And they've been like, and actually they were, it would have been $350, $360 with tax on top of the price. So now they're $360 up front each. That's a big difference in price. It's double now. I missed the sale. As soon as I had the money, I was actually going to rob Peter to pay Paul because of that deal, and I was going to not pay a bill or not do something that I had to do just to get the hard drive deal and suffer for a week or two until I got paid. And it was like maybe 4 or 5 days later I got paid. I go to buy the hard drives. They're sold out. Done. Everybody, like, it was like trying to buy concert tickets to Taylor Swift. 15 minutes after the sale starts, it's over. The whole tour is gone. And now you got to buy them on the black market for $2,000 a seat. And so, but what's my compromise that I'm talking about here? Well, I need these things. And there's been so many times where I've just decided that I'm this close to just biting the bullet and putting it on a credit card or spending the money to get them, even though it's going to hurt financially. And I feel like I'm paying twice as much as I should. So I keep waiting. They just announced, Amazon's big spring sale was this week. And I'm like, well, let's see what they do. And as far as I know, they haven't been on sale. Like, something's going on with the hard drives, and like there's just some reason. I think it's because of the AI and the data centers and all this bullshit that they're doing with AI. The AI companies are cornered the market on hard drives, and they're just gobbling them all up because they don't have enough room to put all their shit. And they're driving hard drive prices up through the roof right now because demand can't keep up, or the supply can't keep up with the demand. And so the hard drives are just locked in and pretty much a very high price compared to what they should be right now. And so they're not going on sale either. Especially since, Thanksgiving was the last time they went on sale. Best Buy and Amazon had rockin' deals. And both of them were sold out when I went to execute. So I keep holding out hope that I can get them for half price, and I'm like, it's not gonna work. And so, it's a little bit hot to be wearing a burqa today, but hey, everybody has their own thing. Um, it's like 87 degrees out here, man. I wouldn't be dressed like that. But the hard drives, the compromise I'm trying to make is waiting and waiting and waiting until they come down in price, but that may not happen in time. And my biggest beef is that I know I'm going to buy them, and a week later they're going to go on sale for half off. Like, I just know this. And then I'm going to be pissed. But until then, I may just get to the point where I have to bite it and buy them, or buy smaller ones. Hold on a second. Am I still okay? Looks like a phone call came in, but this time it didn't cut the microphone off, and it's still recording. So looks like that problem's taken care of. So compromise, waiting. What's another compromise? I could look on Facebook Marketplace. I could get a couple of used hard drives. All right, well, I got to fix that problem. Yeah. All right, it's working. Test. That's some weak-ass bullshit. Every time I get a phone call now, the microphone on the video camera decides to switch from Bluetooth to a different microphone that doesn't exist. Because I've got a cable plugged into the USB port on this phone, and this camera thinks that it's a microphone, but it's not. And so it was some bullshit telemarketing call. Probably AT&T want me to sign up for fiber again. They call like 5 times a day. The only reason I haven't told them to fuck off, which I'm about to, is because I actually want the fiber connection, but I just haven't gotten around to it because I got other things to worry about right now. And my lease is almost up too. And I have no plans to move right away, but I started looking at places. And I do see, there's a place for rent around the corner from me that looks like a nice little 2-3 bedroom house. But there's a sign out front and it doesn't say how much. And I'm like, it's probably out of my league, to be honest. But the yard is all overgrown. It looks like very, it looks like maybe I could pull something off. And I'm in a better place now. Like, I could handle moving into a house and getting all the utilities hooked up and all the bullshit that go, like, all the things that were a pain in the ass for me a year ago, I can handle a lot better now. A lot better. So, but the compromise, well, about the hard drives, I'm trying to wait and wait and wait. That's my compromise, but I may just have to do it. And there are certain ways not to compromise. One of those I just said, buying a used hard drive off of Craigslist. Aside from the fact that it's used and it's a wear and tear part, it could, the lifespan could be short, it could be long. I've got hard drives that are over 10 years old that I use every day still, and they're fine. And I have no fear of whether they're going to, fall apart or stop working. But like I said, I was in federal prison surrounded by a bunch of kitty diddlers and collectors, connoisseurs of certain kinds of material that that you would be very leery to just get a random hard drive from someone. I mean, fuck, dude, I knew a guy who was downloading, I think he downloaded like 10 to 20,000 porn pictures to his work computer, and the dude worked at fucking Fisher Price. Fisher Price, Fisher Price, the toys and the Weeble Wobbles and the fucking, the All the kids' toys, yeah. Yeah, he was helping to make the kids' toys while he was downloading pictures of naked kids to his fucking hard drive on it. You got to be careful, man. You can't just be buying a fucking laptop now on Craigslist, connect that thing to the fucking internet, and all of a sudden the FBI's kicking down your door because the thing was full of fucking pictures of naked kids hidden somewhere on the fucking hard drive that you didn't even know about when you bought the fucking thing, and now you're doing a 10-year bid in the feds because you bought a computer on Craigslist or a fucking hard drive or whatever. No, that shit, I will not fucking buy a hard drive that's not new in the box with a fucking seal around it. Dog, no. So, aside from the fact that hard drives are a wear and tear product and they could wear out and die prematurely. But I mean, you could buy a brand new one and it lasts 2 years. You could buy a used one and you get 10 years out of it. I mean, there's no real way to know, but there's some things you just don't compromise on. Same thing when it comes to car tires. Another example. Can you compromise? Yes. I got a set of fairly inexpensive, I can't remember the brand, tires for a Jeep Liberty. I cannot remember the brand. I would never buy this brand again, but how would I know? Because I think I would know the brand if I saw the name of the brand, but I can't think of it. 3 years after, it was like 2 years later, I had to get all 4 tires replaced because they were like done. The tread was gone. Now I had a Jeep Wrangler that I bought a set of rims that had brand new Michelin, some sort of freaking Michelin. I think they were Michelin. I don't think they were Bridgestone. Pretty sure they were Michelin tires. I needed tires, and my mechanic said, I got a friend who's selling a set of 5 Wrangler wheels that are from a Rubicon, better than yours, bigger than yours. 4 brand new tires and a spare. The spare doesn't match the other 4, but the first 4 are brand spanking new, and the spare is in great shape. They're all the same size, so you won't have a problem if you need to use the spare. And for the price, he was like, 4 of these tires would be like $1,200 or something like that. He's selling the rims with the tires for $700. What do you say? I say do it. I'll be down there in a half hour. I'll go get cash. I'll be down there. And I needed tires to pass inspection. So those Michelins, the problem I had was the TPMS sensors inside the wheels weren't compatible with my Wrangler. They were a couple of years newer, and they had changed the sensor. The computer in my Jeep would not read these sensors, so my Jeep constantly showed the low tire pressure light. And my mechanic was like, the labor to go in and change all of those sensors. He's like, the parts, they're not that expensive, like $25 each or whatever, but he's like, the labor to take all those wheels off, put the sensors in, rebalance all 4 tires, all 5 wheels, because you have to do the back one too, or one sensor is not right, it will throw that thing. So all 5 had to be done. He's like, it'll cost you so much money in labor by the time you're done that you may as well just wait until you need new tires, and then it won't be any labor at all. It'll just be the cost of the parts. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't need my tire pressure sensors to work. I know how to check my tire pressure. No big deal. I'll just wait. Well, it was like 5 years, and my tires were still good. And I drove the shit out of this truck. I drove up and down the coast of Florida and back and pavement and off-road and everywhere else. And I'm telling you, I had these tires for 5 years. And after the 5th year, I was like, you know what? I think I might need new tires soon. But they still passed inspection. But they were starting to like, yeah, they definitely don't look new anymore, but they were 5 years old and had so many miles on them. And so the compromise is this: do you get the cheap ass tires because your budget? Sometimes you're broke. I'm broke. I know what that's like. Do you get the cheap ass tires that wear out in 2 years and you got to do it again, and it costs you $600-700 for a vehicle like that? Or do you get the Michelins or the Bridgestones or the high end whatever the fucks, the beast modes, the Goodrich, whatever? You get the best tires, and it's like $1,200 for the set, but they're gonna last 6 years. So you really paid less. You paid more up front, but you paid less overall. Is that worth a compromise? Sometimes you have to fix your car, and there's an aftermarket part that's half the price of the factory part. It's almost every mechanic will tell you, don't even fuck with that aftermarket China bullshit, because it's going to break in like 3 months. He's like, the factory one might cost 4 times more, but we're going to be doing this repair one time for the remainder of the time you own this car. If you go with Chinazon's version of it, you're going to be back here in 3 months getting it done again, and you're going to be paying, if it's like $1,000 repair and it's $700 labor, and you want to save $200 on the part, well, you're going to be paying $700 labor 3 months from now when the part breaks and you got to do it all over again. So these are the things that you got to take into consideration when and if you're ever in a situation where you may have to make a compromise somewhere. And so I think that covers the topic pretty well. Sometimes you have to compromise or you're not going to get anywhere. Sometimes you need to compromise, or the best thing to do is to compromise, but you try to find a solution that is better for both parties involved than what either one of you would have had in the first place if you just had it your way. Burger King says, have it your way. Well, maybe your way sucks and the other person's way sucks, but maybe there's somewhere in the middle, because you're butting heads. Maybe there's some compromise you come to that's better than your way and better than their way, and at the end of the day, everybody got their way and it's better. Sometimes you got to compromise because there's nothing else you can do. You got to do a patch job on your car or your bicycle or whatever just to get home. You're hiking through the wilderness and you've got a broken leg. You got to take 2 tree branches and a fucking t-shirt and make a splint. Take a tree branch and make some crutches out of it. You got to get your ass out of the wood. You got to find a way. That's compromise. You're not doing the right thing. You're doing what you have to do to make it work. And sometimes you just can't compromise because you might save money, but in the end, you're going to spend 10 times more, because to save $20, you end up losing 100. So with that, I'm going to call it a day and get on my hike, get home, see what's up. Got some deliveries to deal with. Hopefully UPS they're the worst one. I got to deal with them today. Well, actually, FedEx is worse than them, but either way, I got to deal with that. So I'm just going to say peace out, and I hope y'all have a good one. All right, later.